All right, so we're going to wrap it up with kind of where we left off with before we went to spring break. So some of this might be an introduction to some new information for some of you, and some of it might just be review, which is great too, okay? So we're actually going to go back to the colonies, and we were looking at how those two different lifestyles were really shaped based on the geography and climate that they lived in. And because of that, they have these two completely different lifestyles, right? One is very diverse, living in towns, really not having a huge labor source other than maybe some indentured servants, a few slaves, and the people there themselves. In the South, very agricultural, focused on farming and making money off of that, needing, in their opinion, that labor source from Africa, those slaves. So just kind of two completely different lifestyles already starting. And then we decide that it's time for us to create our own new country. And even that decision had the North and South against each other. Northerners believing, especially those from Massachusetts, that we needed to declare our independence right away. Southerners, many from Virginia and South Carolina, thinking that we were jumping into things and this is a northern issue. And so eventually they compromise and decide that yes, they will declare their independence with the Declaration of Independence, but we cannot mention anything about slavery in that document. And so that was the compromise, that one of the big compromises that they had to make when creating the Declaration of Independence. And so already you see the North and the South trying to make compromises so that everybody's happy, okay? We don't want to create a rift already. So when we create our Constitution, the government for our country, again, we've just declared our independence, and at the same time we're trying to create this new government. The very first one was kind of a good attempt, but it didn't work, right? The Articles of Confederation are scratched, and we start the Constitution. And once again, we're seeing the people of the United States having to make compromises to make both Northerners and Southerners very happy. And so one of those compromises was between the big states and the small states. Who's going to get more representation? And so we have the Great Compromise. We have the Senate created, which would make the smaller states happy. Every state would get equal representation with how many? 4. Good job. No. Naughty. 2. 2 represent, or oh my God. Did I just do that? Do we have to redo the whole video because that one mess up? No. 2 senators per state. The other house, was the House of Representatives, was going to be based on population. And so that's going to make your bigger states very happy, okay? Another compromise that they had to come up with, though, was what do we do with our slave population? Southerners don't want them to have the rights as other citizens, but yet they want them to count in their population. And so once again, we have to make a compromise. And so you see the North and the South kind of going back and forth, trying to make each other happy. And in this case, the North agrees to allow 3/5 of a person to count towards their population if they are slave. So if you are an African slave, you count as 3/5. Or if you want to think about if somebody has 5 slaves, only 3 of them would count towards the population, okay? As we move forward, so that's in the late 1700s, we get to the 1800s, right? And we start to see the split between the North and South grow, and this divide become even bigger. We have Eli Whitney's invention of the cotton gin, which is going to further the agricultural lifestyle of the South and make it much easier for the South to grow and plant and harvest cotton, which therefore ends up increasing slavery, which was the exact opposite of what he wanted to do. In the North, you see the invention of the factory, so to speak. You have Samuel Slater create, and not really on his own, he stole the blueprints from England, brings them over to the US, and builds his own factory. And so once again, setting that factory up specifically in the north because of the geography. The rivers in the north would be great for powering these factories. So again, using that geography, he could have put that factory anywhere in the United States. And the best place was near these kind of narrow, fast rivers that would be able to power the factory. And that led to more jobs for women, eventually children as well. You see cities boom in their numbers. Immigrants start to come in. Think about that last unit we did. What were some pushes and pulls for these immigrants to come over from Ireland and from Germany? Why would they want to come to the US? Why would they want to leave their home country? Okay? So the immigrants come over, they're working in these factories, and you see these northern cities just explode. But with that comes kind of disgusting, nasty, gross living conditions and working conditions, which is where we were heading next. We were heading to this westward expansion. And once people start moving to the north, overcrowding becomes a really big issue. People in the south, there is no more land for them to purchase unless they want to do that at a really expensive price. And so then we see the entire West open up. It starts with Thomas Jefferson and the Louisiana Purchase, but we see the entire West open up. And there's my US, yay. We have the California Gold Rush. Eventually, down here, we'll annex Texas and we'll claim Texas as part of the US. And eventually, the US reaches from sea to shining sea, all right? And so you see a lot of these people that have lived in the terrible conditions in the north. You see a lot of runaway slaves that would like to get out of the south. And so many of them at first go to Texas. Eventually, they go all the way down to Mexico and all the way up to Canada to gain their freedom. All right? But you also see many low income, poorer citizens in the South that want to get out as well because they don't have the money and financial ability to buy some of that territory or that land in the South. So that's kind of where we were ending, right? So we were looking at cause and effect, right? First, we talked about how the geography shaped these colonies. Then we looked at how the colonies split off and we created our own new country. But even that brand new baby country had issues and we're kind of trying to make compromises to keep each other happy. And then as we expand west, that's just going to increase the tension and the number of compromises that they have to make with each other. So you're going to see many Southerners start to move west and bring their slaves. You're going to see a lot of Northerners start to move west and they're not bringing their slaves. In both areas, land is being given away, sometimes for free, but sometimes at a very low price. So it's very enticing for a lot of people to move west. And like we said, out west, we also have the California Gold Rush, which is enticing for people to move west, okay? So that's kind of where we're leaving off. Hopefully that was a quick enough, I know I talk a lot, a quick enough review though of how we got from the different geography of the North and the South to the two kind of different economies and lifestyles, their different cultures, which then they take those cultures with them as they start to move west. And with that, as we grow, so do our issues between the North and the South, all right? And that is where we are going to end the year, is how do we compromise or not on this issue? Okay, thanks guys.